gathered here today to introduce my fourth album. It's not yet complete, but it is in the process of being complete. We're at about 55%, 50 to 55% completion. Begin. I just came up with the title actually a couple days ago. And I went through probably 24 titles to select what I feel is the right title for this project. When I started making this album, I didn't really as open concept as my previous albums were. That's a term I got from my mastering engineer, Dan Leaning. Shout out to him. He mentioned that my last EP, when we were mastering it, had a open concept, which I love. And it's a perfect way to describe my first three albums, which didn't really, with the exception of Nova, didn't really have a consistent theme all the way through. It was more so just like a snapshot of where I was at in terms of my production development and in terms of my mental, like really like specific, right? You know, like it's just kind of like the ephemera. But with this album, where's my finger at? With this album, trying to be more real time with what I was expressing. This album is about, like I mentioned last time, it's about the quarter-life crisis, but it since has expanded to be beyond just about the quarter-life crisis. Yes, it's still about the quarter-life crisis, but it's also about the overall emotional experience that I've been able to finally put my finger on recently over what I've been experiencing for the past year plus since starting at Cal State Fullerton, which is also imposter syndrome. So I've been dealing with quarter-life crisis and imposter syndrome at this stage of things, and I could not remove that from the process of making this album. With the previous albums, what I did was I confronted emotions and situations that I felt like I already had moved past or had a handle on emotionally. But with this album, I pretty much took my feelings literally as I was feeling them and tried to come up with something productive and artful with it. And that's what's making this album, is consoling myself and being my own best friend and my own coach syndrome that I've been experiencing at least for the past 2 years since the release of my last album. So, why quarter-life crisis? What makes me call it that? What makes it crisis-like? 411, what is it? I've been in college for 10 years, and I'm just now getting to the point of graduating with my undergraduate bachelor's degree. And somehow I feel unprepared and too young for all this. Yeah. I somehow feel I'm supposed to be. Am I developed enough to really be striving for the things that I'm striving for? I'm the oldest one in this class. Do I still got it? Am I fresh enough to make an impact the way I want to make an impact in this? A big thought. And it's a big thought that overwhelmed me on the first day of class, such that I actually cried on my way back to my car after my first day of classes in my senior year of undergrad. Because I felt like I had gotten to this point and maybe I had facaded my way through it. Or maybe I was a fraud. Or maybe I was an imposter. Maybe I don't, because to me, I wasn't that developed. I wasn't that skilled. You know, like to me, I'm just like some normal dude. But when I'm seeing myself and contrasting myself against my peers, I can't help but see, you know, the above average elements and the elements where I just go a little bit further than they do. And that's not to down my peers or anything like that. It's just confronting my abilities and accepting that I have abilities and accepting that I had skills triggered me to feel like I didn't have any, and triggered me to feel like I was putting on a front, and that like, okay, I know this pretty well, but I'm not the best, you know, or I'm not amongst the best, right? And I finally started to try to work through letting that go and acknowledge the places in which I am excelling. But there's no time limit on that. There's no telling how long that takes. You know, you have to be willing to wake up every morning and confront that feeling of being an imposter, and continue to remember what you've accomplished thus far. Because I have to remember, I've already accomplished so much. I have overcome homelessness. I've overcome the depths of a clinical depressive episode. I have had a breakdown, and I'm good. You know, I'm good. I have a great social support system. I have friends, family, acquaintances who ride for me and who 10 toes down on business. with anything regarding me. So I have to acknowledge that. I have to be grateful for that. And the more I'm grateful for that, the less I feel like an imposter, and the less I feel like I have to be bigger or more than what I currently into the existential crisis as well, because, or the quarter life crisis, I should say, because I look at the quarter life crisis. My definition of it is it's the existential angst and crises that you experience. I don't think it's just one type. I think it's like a collection of types. I think there's several different kinds of common anxieties and situations you can be in when you're experiencing the quarter life crisis. But I see it as more really wanting to make sure that you're pursuing the right goals, understanding your value, understanding your place and your role in your community and in society as a whole, understanding where you can offer your abilities and be the most help or be of the most help. All of that is wrapped up in the quarter life crisis. One thing that makes me feel comfortable about the quarter life crisis, I guess you could say, because the whole thing is very uncomfortable. The whole thing, it feels like I'm walking in two left shoes or wearing a suit that's too big or blank. I just feel like I'm in a situation where